Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. So today, we are proud to be launching our new course, Discover Wellbeing. So we created the course in response to the finding of our 2019 sight loss survey, which revealed that 92% of respondents had experienced emotional or psychological impacts. Through Discover Wellbeing, we aim to help those living with inherited sight loss and those who support them to develop an awareness of emotional well-being and practical skills to actively adapt to life's up and downs. To tell us more, I'm delighted to welcome three speakers who have played a key role in developing this program. We have Dr. Mary Thurston, John Manning, and Denise Rawden. So first of all, I'd like to introduce from home, Dr. Mary Thurston.
Hi. Gosh, can you hear me? Is everything okay? Somebody give me a thumbs up if everything's working as normal. I am delighted to be with you virtually from home. So anything can happen. You know, these things are not bomb-proof. So I have a very vocal guide dog who may bark if somebody comes to the door. I have young women daughters who have been strict instructions not to stream things so that the Wi-Fi holds. So I'm really hoping that all will go well for this opportunity to talk to you. So I want to really start with a clear theme of let's talk about sight loss and mental health. And whenever we mention mental health, there's still a kind of stigma about it, something left over from days of old, where you were mentally ill or you were mentally well. But mental health is a continuum, and particularly with inherited sight loss or with acquired sight loss, we need to be talking about how it impacts on mental health. So I want to start today by giving you a little bit of an overview of my own journey, of my professional journey, the research that I've been doing, the direction of travel of where we're at now in terms of understanding and thinking about mental health, and hopefully we can end with a call for you to be thinking about sight loss and mental health and being able to talk about it without fear and without stigma. So let me start at the beginning. I came from a family of artists and musicians, and my first degree when I was in my early 20s was a degree in fine art. I was an artist. I did drawing and painting. I also came from a family of teachers as well as artists, musicians. Were all teachers, and I couldn't think of anything better than to go into teaching after I finished my art degree. So I worked very happily as a primary teacher, and life came along, and I got married and had kids, and I was a very, very busy mum of two toddlers. Like one had they had been very close together, so one was maybe 3, the other one was 2, and it was a real handful working full time and juggling being a mum. And then unexpectedly I became pregnant with my 3rd child, and meaning that when she was born, I was a mum to 3 toddlers under 5, and I was working full time. Now, during that period, I began to have some problems viewing teletext. So this was a time before we went all interactive. So, and I went to the optician. I have no sight loss in my family. And after a series of appointments at the hospital, they said, you have retinitis pigmentosa, and you will lose your sight. There is no cure. And I don't think they said it in these terms, and this is what I heard. And we don't know how it will progress. It may, because you have no family origins, nobody to kind of, we can see how it manifests. So it may come quickly, it may gently deteriorate, and that diagnosis rocked my world. So I was already stressed and stretched, if you can imagine, but having this in the mix. And I can still feel, the shock of it. And I think I think we can't underestimate what a diagnosis, how it impacts on people. So for me, within a very short time, I had to give up driving. They were like, I can't believe you're still driving. But because some of you who are, you might know about this condition, that is like a tunnel vision, for the type that I have, is like tunnel vision. So I thought I was driving really well, but I wasn't seeing all the hazards around about me. So I had to give up driving. And then I was thinking, how do I manage to get kids to nursery? How I can't live my life like with ease if I'm no longer driving. And that, I stepped away from teaching because I thought I can't teach if I don't have sight. How can I do my job? So because of that, then there was only one income coming into the house, and we had to move to a smaller house. So, and I went into a very deep depression, and to me, it still kind of haunts me, really, that these were missing years where my kids were so young and formative years. And, it was a really heavy cost, the cost of the diagnosis, for me to be in such a depressed and non-functioning state. So that lasted for perhaps maybe 2 years. I was on antidepressants, but life was bleak, and I just couldn't see a future. And I really struggled to be a mum with youngsters. I thought, how can I keep them safe? All of the kind of worries and anxieties were doubled and trebled, and a very anxious and depressed time. So life changed for me. I don't know if we have any representatives of guide dogs here, but life changed when I got my guide dog. At the point of getting it, it was perhaps the lowest point in my emotional state, because it was, it meant that I had to accept I am blind, right? And that was a really big deal, because I've been, I hadn't grown up with any expectation of this happening in my life. It's not I saw like parents or anything. That was so still out of the blue. And it seemed a sort of finality about it that I would become a guide dog user. And so my own kind of internal prejudices were really highly active, on high alert, that this is a change of status in my life. Something different had happened and life changing. And but actually that was the best thing that ever happened, because there was a kind of shift that the public, the British public, generally love guide dogs. And so what happened was this tidal wave of warmth towards my guide dog, which reflected on me. And my guide dog was pretty special. She won the first guide dog of the year. She's called Wanda, and that was in 2004. And because she lived a life with 3 really young kids, and she went to nursery school and to ballet classes and swimming lessons, and all of she handled it with great steadiness and patience, and went to talk to brownies and things. So my confidence grew on the back of this. I became kind of reconnected with the world, and with I kind of became more confident in myself, started doing things. And I took a night class in counselling skills. And I thought, because if I can't do teaching, what could I do that's not sight dependent? I thought, well, I can listen to people. So I loved the counselling skills, and I stayed on and did a master's, a diploma, and then a master's. And for the master's, the research that I decided to do was, I was aware that at the time that I was diagnosed, there was a lot of practical support. So I had liquid level indicators, large screen things. I had you know, I had had long cane training, and I had my guide dog, but nobody was asking, how are you? Nobody was asking. So all that period, that really dark period, I felt nobody could, I felt I couldn't express it. Nobody was asking me about it. And it was kind of out of sight, except for my own family, who were having the impact, who were kind of dealing with the impact of it. So I thought, I wonder if, I know that sight loss was really hard for me emotionally. I wonder if it's hard for others. So I had this kind of curiosity, and that was my first research project, was called The Emotional Impact of Sight Loss and the counselling experiences of blind and partially sighted people. Because I had gone for counselling, but I felt it wasn't effective. I felt my counsellor didn't understand the nuances of what I've gone through. And almost like I couldn't even begin to tell her how it was impacting on me, you know, because I felt she just won't get it. So I was curious about, you know, the emotional impact of sight loss and about others if they've had counselling. How was it? And so that was a really important piece of research that kind of underpinned all the rest of my research. So what happened was, it was very clear from the participants that there was an emotional impact, and it came in kind of, there were various themes that came out, and one was around diagnosis, how people felt such fear and shock around diagnosis. And the other one was around, another theme was around coping with deteriorating sight. And I don't know, like the lived experience of coping with sight. I don't know if anybody here has sight loss, but the lived experience of it is that each eye is important. So you have like your good eye, or, you know, my good eye is getting worse, or my, you know, so it's really difficult. With each deterioration, there comes a new impact of like, is this it? Can I cope with this? You know, how am I going to manage now? Another theme that came up was about about change, feelings of loss. So as I experienced deep feelings of loss, others felt the same. Others had lost jobs or lost hopes and dreams, like, you know, of one person had wanted to become an engineer and travel abroad, and that all got taken away when they had their diagnosis of sight loss. So loss of driving license, all the other common kind of losses, loss of hobbies and things. There was a whole raft of losses, and that kind of flew in the face of the kind of there was a trend, you know, and I absolutely supported the social model of disability. And some of you here will know a lot about that. But there was a trend that it was really not cool to talk about, you know, a loss aspect of sight loss, but there was great personal loss, you know, reported in from these people that were interviewed. Then there was also a change of perception of self, like, who am I now? That, you know, like particularly from those maybe who had been in caring roles and who felt that they now couldn't care and they were like being cared for, and that was really hard for people. Changing the emotional impact of rehabilitation, that was really tough. Like people talked about, I went into this room of blind people and I saw my future and I ran out. I just couldn't see it. So it was like, I think it's really important from a professional point of view to understand that what you're coming in with in terms of, I can help you solve your life by giving you this, it has a terrible emotional, it may have a terrible emotional impact. You know, people are maybe not ready to engage with it. So other things like changing relationships with the family and with the public, you know, so the public don't really understand sight loss, and there was a lot of reports about, you know, the public's insensitivity or awkwardness around sight loss, like talking to the partner, saying, in shops and things and public places. So there was a huge impact, and people generally were skeptical of counselling because they wanted it. They said, I want somebody to know, I want somebody to talk to, but they won't understand, right? So that was a really important aspect of this. They won't understand. So from that, there was research, there was an identity of 5 key stages of sight loss. And I think these are really important. I should have taken a note of the time. I hope I'm still okay for time. So the 5 stages of sight loss are around diagnosis. Stage 1 is around diagnosis. Stage 2 is a kind of keep calm and carry on stage. And that's where, the person wants to have life as normal. So if they've been involved in some kind of low vision services, they might hide all the trappings of it. Maybe putting a cane in a backpack, or not using their liquid level indicator in public, or whatever. Kind of keep calm and carry on. Then there's a point of impact, which is stage 3, where the sight loss impacts on the person's life and they can no longer carry on as they were. And that might be the loss of the driving license, or it might be another loss, a loss of a hobby, or a loss of something important to them. So then there's another stage about coming out as a blind person, where you are engaged in rehabilitation, you're out with your white stick or your guide dog, and then you have to deal with the whole of the public, how they interact and all of that, while you're only just maybe coming to terms with your own identity as a blind person. And then there's a 5th stage, which is like a new normal stage, where life becomes normal again, and you kind of get in touch with your resources and everything kind of calms down, until it's not linear. I've made it sound linear. It's not. It can be compressed. So at the diagnosis, you might have a point of impact. If you're told at the hospital maybe you can't drive, then your life is impacted, bang, right there. Or it might be spread out. So for example, you might have somebody an intimate partner who is really caring for you, and you might kind of carry on and living your life until something happens to the intimate partner, and then the point of impact happens, so way down the line. So but it is really important to understand the 5 stages of sight loss, so that you understand where your clients are in their journey and how to best support them. So let me see, I don't know how long I've got left. I should have paid more attention to my starting time. Let me talk about emotional support. We used to call it emotional support back in the day, but it became really difficult to think, well, what is emotional support? What do we mean by that? Is it tea and biscuits and sympathy, or is it something more? Is it counselling? What is it? So RNIB constructed a framework of levels of tiers of support, so that we have a kind of shared understanding. So a new addition to it is tier 0, which I think is like helping the clients to be in touch with their own resources or self-help resources, things that they find nurturing. Maybe it's like their religion or mindfulness, or things that are important to them. A tier 1 is the kind of soft support, so maybe like the ECLOs, the eye clinic liaison officers, a listening ear, a first point of call. And that then if that wasn't sufficient, there's a tier 2, which is more structured counselling, formal counselling. And if that doesn't work, then there's a tier 3, which is like the more severe mental health services. So we had a kind of tiers of support. And I think that's really important, because we recognize that different people need different support at different points of the stages of sight loss, right? So it's really important. It's not a one size fits all. And one of the direction of travel now is I'm involved in a collaborative venture with the VI Charity Partnership with Cardiff University, who are wanting to encourage professionals to talk about mental health. And some of you might have been involved in the focus groups for this. And it's the tool to start talking about the mental health is the PHQ-4. And they're just 4 simple questions that you ask your client about the mental health, whether they've been feeling nervous or anxious or on edge, or whether they've not been able to stop worrying, or whether they've been feeling down or depressed or hopeless, or whether they've lost interest or doing pleasure and things. So they're not hugely, life-changing questions, but it's really important that we start opening up these conversations. So there's a piece of work being done at the moment to produce a kind of training package to help professionals have these conversations. So this is why the Retina course could not be better timed. It is, was so delighted to be involved in it, because the Discover Wellbeing course, it kind of is like going to sit, I think, in a kind of tier 0, tier 1 kind of place, where this is helping blind and parasitic people get in touch with their own resources. And it's opening up conversations about mental health. I think it's been such a secret and, stigmatized thing. And I think we really need to normalize this. Of course, sight loss will impact on mental health. Just as cancer, Macmillan have really sorted out and blasted away any prejudices in their campaigns about if you have cancer, you realize there's going to be an aspect to this. It's the same with sight loss. Not that sight loss is life-threatening, but it's life-changing. And I think, we need to understand that there will be an aspect. So I think as a final parting, and I have no idea if this is, if I've overrun, I'm really sorry. And if I've underrun, I'm sorry as well. But as a final parting, I think talk about mental health, talk about it. Ask what's going on. How are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing these days? And don't be scared about the answer, because you're not going to make a person feel bad by asking them, how are they doing? How are they? So Discover Wellbeing, an amazing resource, and I'm so delighted to have been part of it. So well done, Retina UK. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Hello, I'm John. Nice to meet everybody, and everyone online, which I've been specifically told not to forget. So there are lots of people online as well, so it's incredible to be in a room with basically 200 people, really, if you're counting on the online people too. So thank you, Mhairi. It's quite nerve-wracking following someone so prestigious, where I'm just a chap from Aylesbury. But I am the founder of Ellis Mental Health Support, and I, with help, lots of help, wrote all of the courses that are in the Discover Wellbeing portal, as well as poking the developers with a stick to make sure that everything is accessible. And I wanted to just talk you through a little bit about my background, how sort of our take on wellbeing and mental health, and a bit about my story as to how professionals can have an impact on people in a really, really positive way. So I started Arthur Ellis, which is named after my granddad's, Arthur and Ellis, about 5 years ago. And it was following being diagnosed with a particular condition called Bipolar Disorder. Has anyone heard of that before? Show of hands. Yeah? Good. Nice one. It's an interesting situation because I don't have impaired vision, but I do understand it from the perspective of having something that is incurable, that you have to live with, and that you can't necessarily do too much about, but you have to manage. And that's very much our approach to mental health, whether you've got a condition or not. We all have to manage, right? So I started recognizing a variety of different things within mental health, and I started trying to access support. Well, I didn't actively, but my parents did for me when I was about 5 years old. I started experiencing a variety of issues following negative experiences when I was a kid. It led to a variety of operations. I was in a children's mental health hospital when I was 6. And I'm going to talk through a little bit about the introduction to the therapeutic world that I've had and the different introductions that I've had to the therapeutic world, or the world of mental health. So that first introduction when I was 6, it's probably what you can imagine. So beige walls, there was a two-way mirror. I think there was a giraffe that measured your height. I don't know if anyone ever seen those sorts of things. Very typical, very standard. And it was basically a room with beige chairs, beige walls. I think it was like a pine coffee table with tissues on it, like you're probably going to cry, so we'll put these here. And I didn't really feel very, as a 6-year-old, there wasn't very colourful or anything like that. I don't remember it a huge amount, but with that introduction, I decided not to talk to anyone again for 10 years until I was 16. And when I was 16, that was the first attempt at my life that I tried. And I went to the GP after that. So it's kind of backwards in hindsight. You should probably go to the GP before you get to that point, but I didn't decide to at the time. Put on antidepressants. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And with the tablets that I was taking, I know there's probably like pharmaceutical people in the room, so I won't sort of downgrade tablets. But I put on a lot of weight. It was about 4 stone I put on, and it was just, I didn't feel, I was, happier, but I wasn't healthier. And that I was struggling to find that balance. Either I'm happy and incredibly overweight to the point where I can't do anything, or I'm just not, or I'm not happy. So when I was 18, there was another bout of unwellness. And then I moved to Milton Keynes. And it was a completely new territory. So the professionals that I had been dealing with were completely new. And it was a new county, new rules, everything. And I was in a waiting list for around about 4 years in order to see somebody about what's been going on with me for this whole time. There's so much strain that these services are under that it's very, very unfair, really, for them to, for us to expect them to be able to be as responsive as that. But when you're having an issue with your mental health or you're having an issue with your well-being, you don't really anticipate a cold in 6 months' time and go to the doctor just in case. You need that help then. So I was really fortunate enough to be able to go to the Priory. If anyone's heard of the Priory, celebrities and stuff. I've got no gossip. But it was £400 for an appointment. And I was very strict with them that I have one appointment. I'm not going to file for bankruptcy. I'm coming to one appointment and then just tell me what's going on and I'll leave. So I did. And in comparison, that introduction, the receptionist had a psychology degree, a chap called Piers. I still remember his name. It was brilliant. I was offered a coffee when I went in. And the psychiatrist that I sat down with explained my bipolar to me by taking an extra 10 minutes on the appointment, drawing it and really helping me to understand. On the way home, when I realised I've got this label or this diagnosis now, me just knowing that doesn't have a bearing on what I need to do day to day in order to improve my situation, improve my life, control my condition, and feel like I'm in a place where I'm managing it rather than it's managing me and telling me what to do. So I quit my job and started Arthur Ellis. And we are a team of 40 now, different practitioners from counselling backgrounds, psychology, clinical psychology, special educational needs. And we are a series of organisations that all feed 100% of their profits into a charity where we operate a one-to-one service for children, young people and adults. So we see kids from 5 years old up to still kids at heart, but 91-year-olds. So we see a wide spectrum of people. And we're seeing about 60 people a day. So things within Arthur Ellis have really sort of transformed, and we see everybody within a week. And it's that instant accessibility, whether it's to a practitioner or whether it is to knowledge or practical support, that is so important. And the difference between somebody feeling like they're being supported and having one of those negative introductions to the world of therapy. So I'm going to completely contradict everything now and tell you that you're not going to be therapists if you go through one of these courses. It's not designed to make you a counsellor or anything like that, but it's designed to have a look at the important things that aren't clinical or therapeutic. With my bipolar, I've had a wide spectrum of experiences, from being given a year to live when I was 24 because of the amount that I was drinking, or being on top of the world and running a marathon at 3 a.m, but I still ran a marathon, which was quite impressive. So since I've taken on some of the, or majority, and started to lead my life in a way that is within these courses and really focused on lifestyle, my behavior, I haven't had a relapse in my condition for the last 6 years, which in comparison to the 20 before that, it's a ridiculous change. It's amazing. And when we work with people in our one-to-one service, we see an average increase of well-being by 64% after 6 appointments. So working with Retina UK and Mhairi as well, based off of those 5 areas that Mhairi spoke about, from, I've said them so much I can't remember them now, but it was from diagnosis through to new normal. We have taken all of those different aspects from different people's points of view. So forming this, one of the most important things was that I'm not making any assumptions or thinking, what do people with sight loss go through? So everything has been formed from the community. So we had focus groups of people from very early stages of their sight loss journey, who maybe have a gene or they've just been diagnosed, through to people who have limited or no vision, and then all of the friends and family that come into that as well, to understand what are the differences between everyone's experiences. And we were able to, so say we wrote courses, we basically put all of their experiences together. So within, and I know Denise is going to go through it in a bit more detail shortly, but within the courses, what you're going to find is very practical walkthroughs of positive behaviors that, if you identify people aren't doing, then they're going to be on a downward trajectory to becoming unwell. So that's things like exercise, to keep it really nice and simple. There's focus, which draws our attention to the present moment and keeps us away from thinking too much about the future. There's discover, which is all about learning new things. Communicate, which is communication styles and how we communicate with each other. And then helping others and getting a really good balance of those behaviors across not only our lives, because you guys are incredibly important to do this and model this yourselves in order to help others, but it gives you that knowledge to be able to talk people through that you're supporting. So you can actually walk through practically, how can you help somebody? One of the things when I was struggling was I would speak to my friends, or I would speak to people, but no one ever knew what to actually do or to suggest. So we've gone through those practical steps, but also additional tools like thought records, which are typically found in CBT, that you can learn how to do. Motivational planning tools and grounding techniques and different things that can be helpful on your travels, supporting this community. So one of the things that was incredibly important for me to do within this course is to ensure that it's also measurable. And I know that was really important to Retina UK as well. So there are also questionnaires built into it. So we're not spying on you or anything. It is literally just a way to measure if the course has an impact like we want it to on people's levels of motivation, their self-awareness, their ability to regulate their emotions, and different aspects like that. So with the introduction to the therapeutic world, just to finish with a bit of an example of that, we ran some groups for children who were within drug and alcohol affected families. So often the children may have been taken away, or they may be growing up with people that aren't their original family. And we did a group which was about emotional health and emotional support, and it was about different feelings and personalities and stuff, where the kids would draw different animals that represented them. So they were like whale tigers and lots of different things. And there was a lad in there called Max, and he said that it was the best morning he's ever had. He was about 12. And I said, to the guys that I work with, we're only doing like 6 of these groups. It's not enough. We need to do a lot more. So how do we do that? Well, it's not going to fix them. And I was wrong in saying that. And my team luckily pulled me out on it and said, we're not trying to fix these people. They're going to need support for the rest of their lives. But what we can do is give them a really good introduction so they keep on asking for help. And that was kind of the approach that we took to this, to equip you guys with, and CPD points as well, but equip you guys with the knowledge to be able to respond in an effective way straight away, so that people do keep asking, because the support there is so good. So yeah, I look forward to finding out how everyone gets on, seeing everybody joining, so please feel free to register. Denise is going to walk you through it, but I'm going to be sticking around as well, so if anybody does want to talk to me, please feel free. And thank you all so much for coming, both in person and online. Appreciate it.
Hello everyone, I'm Denise from Retina UK. Please bear with me one moment while I try and look at Paula to say how I'm turning my machine on. I wanted to just talk a little bit about, excuse me one moment while I just, oh, it's come to life, bear with me. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the actual portal itself. We have been so privileged to work with the experts that you've seen up on the stage so far today. And I can't thank them enough, both for their involvement, their support that we've actually had, and their expertise. But what I want to do is actually show you, we've talked about it, we want to actually show you what Discover Wellbeing actually is. John and Mhairi have both alluded to the fact of what it isn't. It isn't counselling. It's not there to replace counselling. This is going back a couple of stages before that. What we want to do is start to talk to people earlier in their journey, before they reach that crisis point. We want to avoid people feeling the way that Mhairi did, feeling the way that John did when he was 16. We want to avoid that. We want to start talking to them when they're still feeling relatively okay, so they can understand and have some knowledge, tools, confidence and support to actually recognise when their well-being is good and when their well-being takes a dip. We want to make sure that they've got things in place that they can start to actively, proactively use to help them get back on an even plane. So I want to take you through and show you a little bit more about it. There's been so much talk within the sector around mental health, and there's lots and lots of wonderful things going on. There's lots of sight loss specific counselling that is available to our community, but we know that those wait lists are long. And what we want to do is, by capturing people earlier, hopefully avoid the situations where more people are finding themselves at crisis point, where they're needing counselling, where they're needing medication. And if we can do that with a group of people, it means that fewer people are actually reaching that point, and those that do, hopefully will be able to access the services sooner. We recognised that there was a lot of talk. We wanted to take action. Our survey, as you heard earlier, 92% back in 2019 told us that they had a negative impact on their emotional well-being and mental health through their sight loss. And that figure was very much the same. Again, it was 93% when we've just done this latest survey. So it's really timely that we were able to actually take action and put this project into being from today. So what does it actually look like, and how can you get to it? Well, the first thing is the landing page on our website. So our website is actually going to have a page, where in fact it's got it up live today, a page, it's retinauk.org.uk/wellbeing. And we have lots of cards, I think there's one in each of your bags with the detail on, and there's also some next door if you stop by and have a chat with us. The website actually has some information, so it's got some videos there from both Mary and John, thank you very much, explaining a little bit, as they have today, about why the courses may be of use to you, as to what the benefits are actually going to be. It's got the link to the portal to get into and actually start actioning in. But what we realised is that one size doesn't fit all. And John alluded to the fact that we recognised as people are on this journey that actually you've got people who are very early stages, so they're at the diagnosis stage, or perhaps even before they've had a diagnosis where, you know, their sight has changed, they've noticed something, and they know the conditions run in their family, so it's that they're concerned for the future. It could be that people are, they've been diagnosed for some time, but actually their sight hasn't deteriorated to any significant point yet, but they are concerned about the future and what that might bring. So we decided that we wanted a course called Early Stages, and that's very much about aiming to help people understand those feelings of apprehension and take positive, practical steps to prepare for the future. But there are people that have been living with their sight loss for a long, long time, more advanced in their journey. And we talk about advanced, but it's quite a relative word, isn't it? And it's what the person feels is advanced. So it could be that actually they have very little useful sight left. Or actually they've still got some really useful sight, but they've had a point of impact that's really changed things for them and the way they're living at the moment. So this course is really about helping people to understand those feelings of loss that Mary talked about, to adapt to that reduction in sight and to take practical steps to continue living a positive life. And our third course is all about supporting others. That's the one that is developed for people who are supporting, whether it's loved ones, colleagues, friends, or you guys supporting your clients that are living with sight loss. It's very much about providing you with valuable support, because the one thing I do know is that when we're supporting other people, we often forget to check in on ourselves. We sort of put ourselves in the background, and that's really not a good idea. It can take an awful lot out of us as individuals when you're dealing with people time and time again, and you're hearing such difficult situations that they're in. Please, please have a look at the course, work your way through it, and I'm hoping that it's going to be really valuable to you and your own well-being. But it's also going to provide you with some really useful skills, tools, and confidence to just recognise and support those people that you're actually dealing with, the ones that you are supporting. We want you to empower them to better manage their well-being and notice and recognise when things are taking a slightly negative turn and understand the tools that they can use to get back on track. The courses are completely free to access, so by anybody. We aren't limiting it to just those living with inherited sight loss. But the one thing we are limiting, unfortunately, is our assisted journey. So we talk about accessing support. Alongside the courses, they're available for anybody to do at any time. In your own time, sat in front of a laptop at home or on your mobile phone when you're going for a walk. It's a really nice, easy course to follow. You can take the time that you want. You can work at your own pace. If somebody wants a supported journey, if they want somebody to have a chat to along the way, someone to give some encouragement, guidance, be a sounding board for some of the activities, then they will be able to access what we're calling an assisted journey. So we've got trained up a fabulous team of volunteers to actually offer a weekly call to people to actually offer that guidance and support as they're working through to complete the course. Like I said, the courses are available to anybody, but for that assisted journey, that's really, at the moment, we can only manage to, we've only got enough volunteers to actually look after our community, but please do let us know if you've got any questions around that. So how does it actually work? What does it look like? Well, the first thing is, if you click on the Discover Wellbeing link, it will take you through to our portal. And it will bring you onto the welcome page. The welcome page has got a video that John's prepared for us, just telling you a little bit about the course. And near the top, it gives you the opportunity to register here. The registration is very simple. As we said, we've worked with our community to make sure that that's nice and easy to use. And all we ask is your name, email, and for you to set up a password. We do ask you to actually tick a box to confirm that you're happy for us to collect and hold your data. And the data we're referring to, as well as your name and email, is just that questionnaire that John mentioned about actually filling in how you're thinking and feeling, both at the beginning of the course and at the end. Once you click submit, you can actually save your details, so save your password, so it makes logging in a whole lot easier, which I haven't done because I'm using somebody else's laptop, so please bear with me. And it will take you back to the welcome page. I'm not going to play John's video. I hope you all log in a little bit later and have a listen to that. But as you scroll down, you'll see the 3 different courses that are available for people to choose from: early stages, living with change, and supporting others. Underneath that, you've got the option to go in and click on our frequently asked questions. So there's lots of things in there, whether it's about, sort of how you get to the activities, how you save them, but there's also information in there about how to, sort of get any certificates and things like that. To have an assisted journey, if somebody actually wants to have the support of a volunteer, they can click on that button and it explains a little bit about what to expect. And we just ask you to email wellbeing@retinauk.org.uk to request that. We will then do an initial phone call with the individual to find out a little bit about them, what they're, so where they're up to, what their expectations are of the course, and we'll try and match them with a volunteer that we think that they'll click with, that they'll get on with, which is really important. And then there's Get More Support, and that's going to take you back to our website and some of the other services that we actually offer. But we want you guys to have a look and work through the supporting others. So let's just take a look at that. And as you can see, it's a very clean, simple, easy to follow website, portal. So the first thing it asks you to do is to go through the questionnaire. I'm not going to go into that, but it's a list of questions and it just asks you to rate yourself as most like me or least like me. And that gives us an idea, a starting point of where you are at this time. It will then allow you to go in to each of the modules in turn. When you log in, the first time that you go through the course, it will take you through and guide you through step by step. Sorry, I'm just distracted. Lead you through step by step. What it won't let you do is jump ahead. So when you have finished a module and you finish the course and you want to go back and revisit any of those exercises, any of those activities, watch the videos again, you can do that at any time. Each of the modules is structured in exactly the same way, and it's going to give some information. It's got a video of John actually going through the information that you need for that section. And then there's a couple of activities for you to download. And they're the areas that we really feel are going to make a massive difference. Those tools that individuals can actually use to identify the different areas, taking their thoughts to court, for example, having a thought diary as to how they're actually feeling and what difference it makes. Those activities are the things that people will be able to come back and revisit time and again. For example, when they're feeling well, if they've done this, when they're not feeling too bad, they're in a good place. If in 3 months' time they find that actually their well-being is taking a little bit of a dip, it's taking a little bit of a negative turn, they're having more bad days than they previously had, to go back and revisit those activities and see, what am I doing differently? What behaviours are actually different now to what I was doing then when I was in a good place? It will help them to understand and hopefully put some of those good behaviours back into action and improve their well-being. So we'd really, really like you guys to go back and have a go at this course. And to encourage you to do that, we have actually had the course accredited. So if you complete the course, you will get CPD points for that. In summary, remember, these courses are all about empowering people with knowledge, understanding, recognition, and tools to proactively manage their well-being in a positive way. We need to normalise the conversation out there about how people are feeling, not just about their eyes and their physical health. We want to talk about their emotional health and how they're managing day to day. But don't assume that there's somebody else doing it. Don't assume someone else is having that conversation with your client. It's much better if somebody's checking in with a family a couple of times than if nobody is at all. And to just emphasise that point, there was a quote that actually came back on our survey from someone who said mental health isn't just an issue for the person with RP, it can affect other family members. No health professional has ever inquired about how my sight loss has impacted my family. It seems they're just expected to cope. Please don't let that be your client that's saying that. Help us to spread the word, talk to your colleagues, talk to the people that you're working with, and please use it to help yourselves as well. Thank you. If I can invite John back up to the stage and we can open up for any questions. And perhaps bring Mary back as well if she's still available. John, do you want to come over? Is there any questions?
Hi there, my name's Chloe. I'm from Usher Kids UK, and we exist to empower kids and their families that live with Usher syndrome, which is a dual sensory loss condition. So I'm really excited about this resource, and I think it's brilliant that Retina UK has kind of commissioned something that's so brave and needed. I particularly like this idea of getting ahead, getting upstream of the inevitable impacts. It's what I see when I talk to young people and their families, and it's the statistics that feel unacceptable to me when we look at the adult population of those living with these conditions. So I'm really excited to use it. I just wonder about, when I'm talking with families, if you think this resource would be appropriate for parents who've received a diagnosis on behalf of their children, because often with genetic testing now, they're receiving the news 10 years ahead of symptoms. So they're living with that kind of knowledge of something that's ahead, but also for the children themselves. We support 0 to 25-year-olds. Just wondered what you thought about that.
John, do you want,
Yeah,
do you want to answer?
Stand that side. Dot to the edge. Hello. Yes, it will be appropriate. The way that we approached the talking through of tools and talking through of resources and different skills was very much learn it yourself first, so that you're able to talk it through with others, and doing it as like you're almost modeling that behavior so that it then passes down into your family or your friend or whatever it might be. The examples and the different things that we focused on in terms of the explanations of those, that was all formed from the focus groups. So any example that we might use as a bit of a walkthrough of that particular tool, then it's based off of what friends and family have already said, real life things. So I won't use her name, but if she's online or here, she'll know that it's her. There was a particular lady in one of the focus groups, and she said that she doesn't use a cane because her family, being her parents and stuff, would be ashamed of her. And it was when we were reflecting on that in the focus group, kind of said to her, like, have you ever asked them how they feel about you using one? And just simply doing that, she went away and did it and stuff. So it's because the community hasn't really had anything like this before. It doesn't necessarily have to be everything in the course that you're using. And we do I don't know, we don't want things to be doom and gloom or things to be too heavy. So the way that we describe good and bad behaviours is using a methodology that we came up with called bananas and donuts. So all of your positive behaviours are your bananas, because you can have one every day and it's only going to improve your health, unless you're allergic to bananas, like pick a different fruit. But if you imagine, those indulgent behaviours that we sometimes want to do, like having a takeaway or having a drink, or I've scrolled so much on social media, now I can't possibly go for that run. There are donuts, they're like our indulgent things, but again, if you would have one of those every day or do it consistently, just like eating a donut, you're going to get more unhealthy. So it's quite a light way to talk, certainly amongst each other, but certainly with younger members of the family as well. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I think we've got a question
Hello,
online.
we've got a question online. The question is, we support unpaid carers supporting those with sight and hearing loss. Would this course be suitable for them? I think it's a similar situation.
Absolutely, yeah, and we definitely encourage them to do so. Yeah, get on the supporting others is going to really help to provide them with the support for their own well-being, as I said, and provide them with some really useful tools and ways in which that they can open conversations with the person that they're supporting. Thanks, Kate. Any other questions at all? No? I think that leads us in nicely then to lunchtime. John and I will be on the stand next door, so if you do think of any questions or just want to come by and have a chat about the project, please do stop by and do get online. It'd be really good if you could, on your way home today, as long as you're not driving, actually take a look. Thanks very much.